Hey guys, it's Nicole here back on this Monday night. I hope you guys are all doing good out there, and welcome back to Nicole's View. So today, Miss Camille Cosby, she released an op-ed through blackpressusa.com, and it's pretty good, pretty nice, length. There's a portion of it that talks about her husband's case, and a lot of those points you guys, I feel, have already heard in regards to the just total misconduct, the races, just all that's associated with what happened to Bill Cosby. And I will leave the link to the article in the description, so if you guys want to read that. But I feel like a lot of you already know that. If you've been watching my channel, if you've been watching Mr. Cosby's PR people go on radio and whatnot and different platforms, they talk about this. So they talk about the judge, they talk about the DA, the evidence, the jury. So that's basically what Miss Cosby talks about in midway through her op-ed piece. But I wanted to focus on the Nixon stuff. That's what I want to focus on. And before I get into reading the stuff about Nixon, what a lot of people, I don't know if you guys know this, Miss Cosby does, ask for people to vote. And I expect that, especially with what happened to Bill Cosby. I expect her to want us to do that. And I get where it's coming from. And, in my last video, I don't want to make it seem like I'm against people who vote or you shouldn't vote. I am definitely of the school of thought that locally, county, definitely, yeah. But when it gets to the bigger stuff, the bigger stage, I'm just like, I gotta see us come together as one, as some type of political force with a black agenda. I am all in. I am voting all day long. But I'm just so jaded and I'm so disgusted because what a lot of you may not know, this district attorney is a Democrat that took Bill Cosby down. See, this is where I start to get conflicted. This is where I start to have a problem. And this is where I start to say, Republican or Democrat, they're two wings of the same damn bird. And that's where people like me, we get infuriated. We get disgusted because it's like we're just basically beating ourselves up. One may be doing it a little bit lighter, but we're still getting our asses kicked. And that's where I am when it comes to voting in the year 2018. I'm fed up. I'm tired. I'm tired of the issues and all that. But you know what? I've already talked about that in my last video. But in this video or commentary, I want to focus on what she said about Richard Nixon. Now, for those of you who may be of the age, you remember Richard Nixon growing up, or you just know the history, it probably won't surprise you. But to hear her words and what she says, it makes total sense. So I'm going to read that portion of the article or op-ed piece. So the headline says, exclusive, Camille Cosby says vote for justice, equality, and democracy. My husband, Bill Cosby, was recently victimized by a malicious district attorney and an equally vicious judge. This is not the first time my husband has been persecuted by corrupt and self-serving politicians. In the late 1960s and early 70s, Bill Cosby, along with hundreds of other people, was secretly and illegally harassed by a president of the United States. It was 1973, during the Watergate hearings, when the enemies list of President Richard M. Nixon was disclosed by Mr. Nixon's White House counsel, John Dean. Bill and I were stunned that such a list existed and that Bill's name was on that list. Soon, the answers to questions about Bill kicked in. That's why those federal agents would appear. Listen to that. So when folks say agents and all that, that's true. It's basically COINTELPRO. This is what it was. Hell still is. Y'all think this stuff has stopped? It's only gotten worse. Unannounced, agents would appear unannounced at our home and at his workplaces. That's why there have been multiple tax audits within 1 year. I can only imagine all the bull when it comes to that, especially once you start getting that upper echelon of, social economic. Okay, when you start making that kind of money, I can only imagine. Continuing, let's see. That's why hateful propaganda about Bill was disseminated by media with an extensive goal of ending his believability and livelihood, and numerous other that's why enlightenments. There was another explosive document that was submitted during the hearings, one that deeply resonates with me even today. It was a memorandum from Mr. Dean on how to effectively weaken Mr. Nixon's enemies. How can we best screw them? Example, litigation or prosecution. So basically, it just sounds like Nixon's FBI enemies list. I think it's still continuing. COINTELPRO, whatever you want to call it, it's still continuing. It's still continuing. You can't tell me anything else. And then she goes on to talk about fast forwarding to the two current collaborative corrupt politicians. Both exist in the Montgomery County Courthouse in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. And both, like Mr. Nixon, are intent on destroying Bill Cosby, whether for their toxic ambitions or simply furtherance of racial hatred. One of those men never presented credible, admissible evidence of his charges, and the other has not allowed the truth of Bill's innocence to be put forward. And we all know what she's talking about. She's talking about Kevin Steele, his unethical campaign promise. This man ran a campaign on bringing down Bill Cosby, i.e., it was a Willie Horton type style. Bruce Castor didn't go after Bill Cosby, but I want to do it, and this is what it's going to take. Unethical, some would say racist, and this is part of your Democratic Party. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what many of us are talking about. One is slapping you and the other one is punching you. It's like, which one do you prefer? And she lists about him. She lists the racially charged statement by one of the assistant prosecutors. She goes on to talk about not disclosing evidence, which Ebony and Andrew have talked about. She talks about the judge and his wife having connection with these groups that were protesting outside the courthouse. Okay. The biased jury pool, the one white male that just said, hey, let's just find him guilty, all of this. And then towards the end, she basically says, on the eve of this very important election day, these examples remind me of the dangers we faced during Mr. Nixon's presidency. Both then and now, the American people have been dangerously close to being governed by a dictatorship. A dictatorship close to being governed. Oh, excuse me. I'm rereading this the same sentence. A dictatorship intent on serving its own greedy interests, even when it results in eradicating the laws that protect humanity. Many of today's politicians, especially those who are heavily financed by particular corporate entities, are becoming increasingly dangerous enemies of our human rights. However, history teaches us that we, the people of the United States, can purge this danger from our nation's political offices. Indeed, Mr. Nixon's corrupt presidency was finally brought to an end when the people rose up and demanded that their representatives be held accountable. We must do the same today. That I totally agree with. Absolutely, 100%. Especially in Mr. Cosby's case, there should be a lot of folks who don't believe he did this crap. definitely rallying behind Ms. Cosby. Now, the folks in that area who live in Montgomery County, that's up to you. You know, black folks, I'm talking to you right now. Y'all love voting Democrat. You better know who you're voting for. And even with Ms. Cosby urging folks to vote tomorrow, and you know, those who already voted, you must know who the hell you are voting for. Okay? Kevin Steele is a Democrat. And 80% to 90% of black folks vote Democratic. And they have records of putting our people in jail. No different than a Republican. No different. And this is why I get so torn and so infuriated. Just furious. Infuriated is what I meant to say. Because you see this for what it is. What are folks supposed to do when you have corruption on both sides? This is why, you know, I can't wait for the day. Or, you know, some folks will say, well, don't wait. Why don't you run? Listen, I could never run. Okay. I know my temperament. I know me as a person. I couldn't do it. Okay. Y'all wouldn't have me around a long time because I'd be doing all kind of stuff in favor of us, of course. But I'd be hated. And secondly, you know, politics, that kind of way is not even my thing. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. So those of you who are so quick to say, y'all can sit and complain. Why don't you run? Why don't you run? No, that's just like me saying, or me complaining about, you know, I hate all my doctors. Why don't I go become a doctor? I mean, I'm never going to do that. Okay. So forget it. But I am more than willing to, you know, help, contribute, do whatever I have to do to get someone that is for us, that is black first, that has a black agenda. I am all aboard. I am on board for those, you know, folks who want to run and be ethical politicians and do the right thing and not be scared to say that they are proud to be black, that they are not scared, okay, to care and to speak to black people and say the word black and not run around in circles about it. So, you know, that is basically the article, but I will definitely leave the link in the description. But it just goes to show you how far back this goes with the Cosbys. They've been extorted. They've been lied on. They've been, you know, hounded. They've been harassed. Their son was murdered. So all of it makes total sense as to why they're going after him, or the family, I should say, because he's in jail. It doesn't help her. They've been together so many decades, so many years. And all I can do is keep supporting, keep helping put the word out. And I have a tremendous amount of respect for this woman. Most wouldn't make it. Most would have ran away like a little coward. But this woman, you know, you got to give it to her. Elegant, graceful, smart, strong, independent, and independent in a good way. Not I'm independent, I don't need nobody, but independent in the way she thinks. You know, not trying to coddle the era we're in right now. Trying to dance around sexual assault, rape, whatever, because she is confident in the fact that she knows her husband didn't do this. She knows it is a system that helped do this. So, you know, I will continue to support her, support the family, get the word out in any way I can. And yeah, I just hope that he can get out sooner rather than later, because these devils have a vested interest in seeing him not leave that prison. They want him in there as long as possible. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think about this. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video.